Hi guys, let's get into the Black History fact of today. We're going to be talking about a massacre of a town. Why are we not surprised in the United States? That seems to be hidden and forgotten in the United States, but let's get into it a little bit further. So this was a massacre of black sharecroppers that led the Supreme Court to curb the racial disparities of the justice system. So white Arkansans, fearful of what would happen if African American organized took violent action, but it was the victims who ended up standing trial. So the sharecroppers who gathered at a small church in Elaine, Arkansas in the late hours of September 30th, 1919 knew the risk they were taking. Upset about the unfair low wages, they enlisted the help of a prominent white attorney from Little Rock, Ulysses Bartoon, hopefully I'm saying that right, to come to Elaine to press for a fair share in the profits of their labor. Each season, landowners came around demanding obscene percentages of the profit without ever presenting the sharecroppers detailed accounting and trapping them with supposed debts. There was very little recourse for African American tenant farmers against this exploitation. Instead, there was an unwritten law that no African American could leave until his or her debt was paid of, writes Megan Ming Francis in Civil Rights and the Making of the Modern American State. Organizers hope Barton's presence would bring more pressure to bear through the courts. Aware of the dangers, the atmosphere was tense after racially motivated violence in the area. Some of the farmers were armed with rifles. So, at around 11 p.m. that night, a group of local white men, some of whom may have been affiliated with local law enforcement, fired shots into the church. The shots were returned in the chaos. One white man was killed. Word spread rapidly about the death. Rumors arose that the sharecroppers, who had formerly joined a union known as the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America, were leading an organized insurrection against the white residents of Phillips County. So Governor Charles Barrow called the 500 soldiers from the nearby Camp Pike to, and the Arkansas Democrat reported on October 2nd, round up the heavily armed Negroes. The troops were under order to shoot and kill any Negro who refused to surrender immediately. They went well beyond that, banding together with local vigilantes and killing at least 200 African Americans. Estimates run much higher, but there was never a full accounting. And the killing was indiscriminate. Men, women, and children, unfortunate enough to be in the vicinity, were slaughtered. So amidst the violence, 5 whites died, but of those deaths, someone who have to be held accountable. Out of the tragedy known as the Elaine Massacre and its subsequent prosecution would come a Supreme Court decision that would upend years of court-sanctioned injustice against African Americans and would secure the right of due process for defendants placed in impossible circumstances. Okay, so despite its impact, little about the carnage in Elaine was unique during the summer of 1919. It was part of a period of vicious reprisals against African American veterans returning home from World War I. Many whites believe that these veterans, including Robert Hill, who co-founded PFHUA, posed a threat as they claimed greater recognition for their rights at home. Even though they served in large numbers, black soldiers realized over the course of the war and in immediate aftermath that their achievement and their success actually provoked more rage and more volatile behavior. And ultimately, it was just impossible for them to really just live in that environment. Okay. It did not help the African Americans that formed this union and participated in this union and was fighting for rights, that the local newspapers, they were feuding the fire between, whites and African Americans at that time, and really just contributing to the chaos that was going on. Now, people that were a part of this organization were accused of plotting to kill white people. However, to counter this, there was Walter White, a member of the NAACP, whose appearance enabled him to blend in with white residents. He snuck into the Phillips County by posing as a reporter. In subsequent articles, he claimed that the careful examination does not reveal the disastrous plot to have white people killed. He pointed out the disparity in death toll alone did not accept the versions of events that white residents were saying and white reporters were saying against African Americans, okay? He also questioned the unjustified lynchings and mob violence against African Americans, and that people need to be aware of what the truth and atrocities that is happening in this town. Now, the people that was a part of this union, I mean, it's no surprise here in America, they were coerced to be in these trials, and they were on murder trials for the white individuals that were killed. And they were coerced to, agree to, killing these people for no reason whatsoever. Which is crazy because it all started because they were not treating fairly with their white counterparts, and they were being abused and people were getting lynched, and that they were essentially kind of reinforcing slavery, if we're being honest here. The jury also was biased, and then there was witness tampering as well. So these people did not have a fair trial. But the NAACP did step in, and they did do a series of appeals challenging these lawsuits in the state and federal courts for the next 3 years. And they fought very hard for these individuals. So by these individuals fighting these court cases, it led to a whole bunch of justices, and basically set the tone for the African American civil rights movement and other lawsuits to come. So the federal, this case went to the Supreme Court, and the federal judges, they actually found it that the state were held in contempt, and they were doing things that were not legal in this court proceeding. And it just set a staple, and also kind of some relief to African Americans that, we're not going to be silent anymore. We're going to fight what was right, and we're going to go to the fullest extent of the law. Okay. Now, the ruling also carried a broad-ranging implication for all citizens in terms of federal intervention in contested criminal cases. The recognition that the state had violated the procedural due process, and the federal courts actually weighing in on it, that was huge. There was a deference that was being paid to state criminal proceedings, then this sort of broke the protection that existed for states. So the sharecroppers that had gathered in Elaine had a simple goal to secure a share in the profits gained from their work. But the series of injustices and the events of that night unleashed would, through several years of tenacious effort, end up before the nation's highest court and show that the long-standing tradition of declaring African Americans guilty, absent constitutional guarantees, would no longer go unchallenged. So it just set a tone nationwide to basically, don't mess with African Americans. We will come for you the same way you come for us, but we will do it the legal way. So that is history for you guys.